Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of your favourite dog training podcast. Or if this is your first time listening today, welcome to what is hopefully about to become your favourite dog training podcast. It's very nice to have you here. So, okay, now that we have reached the end of January, pretty much, February is on the horizon. How have you all fared? Was it as miserable a month as we are always promised that it will be, or did you and your dog actually manage to have a nice time regardless of what the calendar told you? Do you know what? I'm actually properly starting to fall in love with January, I think. I think it's because, I'm not a socialite. I would always rather be at home with my dogs than at pretty much any social event. Like, if you loved me, you wouldn't invite me. So January is actually so nice, I'm finding, because actually everyone kind of feels exactly the same way, don't they? Like, for the most part, people just want to chill out. They want to recover from Christmas. They haven't got any money left. It's dark by midday anyway. So we all just want to get under a blanket, light some candles, read a book. Bob's your uncle, happy days. I also find it's a really good time to really dig into exploring some new kind of training that doesn't really involve being outside, because it's just a great way to fill your evening. Like, you're at home anyway, and you spend the time just learning and practicing something cool, in contrast with summer, where it just really feels like you're out and about a lot more. You're busy all the time. Most of your dog's exercise just comes from long walks or playing in the garden or going to the pub or going to the park. God, Freudian slip. That kind of thing. Because the sun's out, you want to be out, don't you? I think I've talked about this before, but Albie had a really irritating injury back in November, December time. So I've been learning all about doing stability stuff with him, physio with him, stretches, platform work, all that kind of stuff. And it was a bit stressful at first because staying still is not really Albie's calling, but I'm actually really genuinely starting to enjoy it now. We just did some more this morning after his walk, and I'm by no means an expert at all. I mean, I'm barely even a novice in the muscular physiology of dogs, but I've actually really enjoyed just learning about all of that side of things and having a go at getting practical with it, and actually taking something from absolutely not having a clue and Albie also not being very good at it to actually, I think we're progressing quite nicely now and we're doing quite well. That feels really nice. Anyway, that's my January recap that you didn't ask for. You're very welcome. But the reason I'm harping on about the end of January is because apparently, statistically, by the end of January, somewhere between 50 to 80% of people, according to the god that is Google, have already abandoned their New Year's resolutions. I read that the second Friday of the month, I heard it on a podcast earlier this week as well, the second Friday of the month is supposedly the most popular drop-off day, to the point that they have given it the title of Quitter's Day, which is in itself horrendously depressing. But basically, I don't want that for us. I don't want us abandoning our goals for our dogs. I don't want us giving up when it gets hard. And so ending up just having yet another frustrating year, or a year that just doesn't deliver the full potential that it could if we managed to stay consistent, if we could somehow find a way to just stay on track. And so today I am here to talk about exactly that. Have you set goals for your dog training this year, or your relationship with your dog this year, or the experiences you're going to have together this year? Have you chosen the thorn in your side that you're finally going to address so it stops impeding on your life, whether that is not being able to have visitors to your home, or not being able to take your dog to busy places, not being able to let them off lead anywhere, whatever it is 2026 the year that we crack on and choose the happier version of life with our dogs that is very much available to us if we're ready to put the work in? Or is it not? Obviously, you're shouting yes, right? So if you are, good, you're in the right place. This episode is absolutely for you. So let's just get into it. let's talk about how we actually make this the year that things change, and not in that crazy manic like new year new me energy, obviously, because if quitter's day tells us anything, it's that shit doesn't work, does it? But in a really grounded, sustainable, very grown up, I actually mean it this time kind of a way. Because actually, when it comes to setting goals for your dog, most people don't fail because they don't care enough, or they didn't know enough, or they just weren't good enough. They fail because the goal itself was just really badly designed. And I don't mean badly designed as in it was stupid, it was a stupid goal, it was wildly unrealistic, whatever. I mean badly designed for taking into account how behavior change actually works for dogs and for humans. So, I want to kick us off by talking about goal setting itself, but specifically goal setting that respects how the nervous system actually works, respects learning theory, and respects, frankly, the reality of your life and trying to fit this stuff in, right? Now, you have probably heard of SMART goals before. If not, you've been living under a rock. SMART is basically an acronym and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And I know that sometimes when people hear all of that, they're like, oh my God, that's just like corporate bullshit or wishy washy word salad, whatever. But stay with me, because when we translate this into dog training language, it actually becomes incredibly empowering. And I think it's going to be the difference between having not achieved anything yet again by the end of 2026 or actually achieving tangible change. So, let's take a really common example, and maybe this example will speak directly to you and your struggle. I don't know. By the end of this year, I want my dog to be less reactive. Like, really super common, massive goal for a lot of people, right? Except that is not a goal. That statement is a wish. It is not a goal. And I'm not saying that just to be mean. I've pretty much, in all honesty, set that exact goal myself in the past, right? But the problem with that statement, that wish, is that it actually gives your brain nothing to work with. It's really vague. It's emotionally loaded, and there's no clear sense of progress whatsoever that you can keep track of. So, on the flip side, if we take that goal and make it a SMART goal, a specific goal might be by June, my dog will be able to see another dog at 20 meters distance and disengage with food. Now, already that feels completely different, doesn't it? It's completely different. It's a crystal clear criteria, and you can literally picture in your mind what the success marker is. So, is it measurable? Absolutely, it's measurable because you either can or can't do that yet. There is no ambiguity, it's very specific. Is it achievable? Now, this is where people often go wrong. Achievable does not mean easy. It means, in this case, is it biologically and emotionally realistic for your dog and for you? So if your dog currently absolutely explodes at 100 meters, then maybe 20 meters by June, maybe it might be a stretch goal. But likewise, it's not totally insane. It's not totally out there. If your dog explodes at 5 meters, but they're okay sometimes, leading up to that, then having 20 meters reliably, consistently by June might be totally reasonable. And this is why comparison is so unhelpful in dog training, because what's achievable for you depends entirely on your starting point. It is not dependent upon what the dog next door is doing or the dog you've seen on Instagram. We need to think about you, your life, the dog you are working with, the dog in front of you. Okay. What is realistic for you? Okay. Next up, is it relevant? Well, For a reactive dog owner, yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's relevant. This goal actually matters to your life. It's not something that you feel like you should want because everybody else is doing it. It's something that will genuinely reduce friction, reduce stress, and massively broaden your horizons and make your world a bigger, happier, calmer place, right? And finally, then, is it time bound? Now, you don't want to do this in a pressured way, but at the same time, goals without timeframes can tend to just really drift, and it becomes really easy to justify not doing the work. Whereas goals with kind, flexible timeframes create momentum. So think of it as creating a really useful container for yourself to work inside, right? As opposed to making things feel intense or stressful or scary. So that's how a SMART goal works when it comes to dog training. So now I want you to ask yourself, what would actually change my day to day experience with my dog this year? And that is not what would make my dog look impressive or what do I feel really embarrassed and ashamed about, but genuinely, what would make life feel easier, calmer, happier, more spacious, all the good feels that actually serve us? That's where the good goals live. Okay. So take a second now to have a think, pause the podcast if you want to, and work out what a single good SMART goal might be for you and your dog. And then you can carry that idea through the rest of the episode as you listen, okay? Because this next part is the part I really want you to hear, especially if you are in any way familiar with that feeling of, well, I set a goal. I worked and worked on it. I was really enthusiastic at the beginning. I put the work in. We made a bit of progress. But ultimately, life lifed at me for whatever reason. We've just ended up back at square one, right back where we started. This is important, okay? Behavior change, real, genuine, long lasting behavior change is not linear. It is absolutely not a little bit better, even more better. Oh my God, perfect, done, ticked, we're finished, it's done, it's perfect. It's more like you start, you get a tiny bit better, get a tiny bit better, wobble, better, setback, bit better, plateau, small win that's so small you probably missed it altogether, bigger win, weird off day, little bit better, breakthrough. And if you don't expect that, you will interpret completely normal learning fluctuations as failures. And then you're at a very high risk of giving up entirely. And I don't want that for you. Because I've said this before, I'll say it again, say it till I'm blue in the face. It's a hill I'll die on. Dogs are not machines. They're not iPhones. They're not washing machines. You can't program them. They are little nervous systems with legs, okay? And learning happens through exposure and then recovery and then integration, not through just constant perpetual forward motion. If it was just constant forward motion, wouldn't we all just have like 12 degrees and a master's and a doctorate and all of that shit under our belts by now or something? It is not how this stuff works. So when people say things like, oh, he was doing so well, but now he's got worse again, my first thought is usually it's not necessarily that he has got worse, he's learning. Regression is very often actually integration, especially after periods of progress. Dogs' nervous systems will test the edges of a new skill a little bit, so they'll try it in a harder context. Then they'll have an off day. It's normal. They'll be more sensitive when they're tired, when they're stressed, they're hormonally influenced, or they are just generally under resourced in that moment for whatever reason. And if every single wobble makes you just think, what's the point? This isn't working. What's the point? What am I putting my effort in for? You will end up quitting right before the work actually pays off. And I know I harp on about this stuff. Maybe you think I do too much considering you're here because you want to learn about dogs. But mindset is so important in dog training. It is so important. It doesn't work without it. You need a mental model that allows for dips without resulting in drama. So, If this sounds like you, here's a little mental reframe you can keep in your back pocket for next time something goes wrong. This is information. This is not failure. Because ultimately, and this is true, every single setback that you could experience tells you something. It will either tell you something about your dog's thresholds. It will maybe inform you about arousal. It might provide feedback about the environment you're in. And ultimately, it will be a great indication of where more support is needed for you to progress. So it's really important that we learn to stop catastrophizing setbacks so that you don't end up abandoning the plan altogether. Okay, right. That said, we now need to decide what are you going to work on first. And if you already have the beginnings of an idea in your mind, you can sense check it here, okay? Because the important thing to remember is you absolutely cannot fix everything at once. This is just another huge reason that people end up burning out because they try to fix reactivity, recall, lead walking, visitors jumping up, stealing food, barking in the house, barking at the windows, barking at the Amazon guy, all at the same time. And then they feel like they're doing loads and loads of work, but nothing is really changing. So here's a really simple prioritization question I want you to ask if you are unsure. If you're thinking from that list I've just read out, well, actually, yeah, like all of those things are a problem for me, and I would like to see improvement in all of them. I want you to ask yourself this: which behavior, if improved, would probably make everything else easier? Now, for a lot of dogs, that is simply something like engagement. For other dogs, it's arousal regulation. For some, maybe it would be predictability and routine. For others, it would be emotional safety around triggers. Very rarely, actually, is the first priority the flashy thing that, looks good on your Instagram stories like off lead freedom. So switch your thinking up to think more about foundations and less about features. And actually, while we're here, this is where I'll just quickly say this because it's very relevant. If you are listening to this and thinking, actually, yeah, okay, engagement sounds like the thing for me, but I don't actually know how to build that in a way that sticks. I wouldn't really know where to start. Don't worry, I've got you. My 21-day engagement training plan has been designed as a way of helping you build engagement as a daily habit, something that slots into real life, real walks for real dogs with real emotions, completely realistic. The whole point of the course and the way it's put together with the daily video lessons is that it just removes the guesswork. You are never left standing there wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing enough? Am I focusing on the wrong thing? Is this exercise even relevant? Should I be doing like more of this and less of that? You are literally just following a clear, progressive daily lesson structure that builds connection, focus, and emotional safety step by step as you work through it. And what I love about engagement work personally, and why I talk about it so much, is that it's one of those foundational pieces that tends to make everything else easier. Literally, loose lead walking gets so much easier. Reactivity work gets easier. Recall work gets easier. Your dog starts checking in with you more rather than you constantly managing or correcting them. So, if this episode has you realizing that maybe this year isn't about fixing everything at once, maybe it's about choosing one solid foundation and doing it well, that course might be a really good fit for you. If so, I'll leave a link in the show notes, no pressure in the slightest. Okay, now another really helpful filter to apply to any problem you're considering addressing is this a skills problem or a state problem? So, if your dog can't disengage from other dogs, that's a skills problem. If your dog can disengage, but only when they are calm, and then they just fall apart when they're over aroused, that's a state problem. State problems need nervous system support before any kind of skills training will really stick and be reliable. And again, this is where so many people accidentally gaslight themselves into thinking they're inconsistent or undisciplined when actually the plan just doesn't match the problem the dog is having. So, if you feel like you're bad at sticking to training, I want you to consider whether the training that you chose was actually the right place to start for you. Because maybe it wasn't. Maybe the problem isn't you at all, it's just the plan. Now, another really important thing to consider is making a plan for change that actually fits in with your real life and not trying to force it the other way around. And this might be the most important part of the whole episode. I don't know. But truly, honestly, 9 times out of 10, people don't quit training their dog because it's too hard or it's not working. They quit because it just doesn't fit. So, if your plan that you're cooking up is going to require 45 minutes training a day, every single day, perfect weather, high motivation, a calm dog at absolutely all times, and zero stress or distractions in your own life, I've got news for you. And you're not going to like it, but that is not a plan. That is a fantasy. So instead, I want you to think in terms of minimum effective dose. What is the smallest version of this habit that still counts? So, like 5 reps of something instead of 15. One walk a day done really well instead of three totally chaotic ones. 2 minutes of pattern games before meals. That's it. One intentional disengagement practice per walk. That's it. Consistency beats intensity every single time, I promise you. But ultimately, if all this is sounding like too much hard work, I don't think it is it? Because you guys are pretty amazing. And I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast if you couldn't really be bothered with the concept of training your dog. But I'll make this point anyway. Nothing changes if nothing changes, which I know sounds obvious and vomit inducingly cliche, but it means that if you actually want a different outcome this year, something in your routine has to be different. It just has to, even if it's tiny, because just going on the same walks, having the same reactions, same stress, same management tactics, same patterns, same decisions, all of that sameness will ultimately just give you the exact same year that you've already had. So if you don't want that, something has got to change. And that doesn't mean overhauling your entire life. It just means choosing one thing and committing to protecting that thing. So put that new little habit or exercise or behavior somewhere where it already fits in. Anchor it to something you already do, like after the lead goes on, or always before meal times, or straight away when you get home from work. Don't rely on motivation, but build systems that will serve you even when motivation isn't there. Because truthfully, even if this episode has you feeling all motivated and inspired today, in all honesty, by the end of February, the novelty will have fully worn off, won't it? And you should almost expect that. That's totally normal. So, this is where identity matters way more than your initial excitement. Instead of asking, do I feel motivated to train today? Can I really be asked to train today? Ask yourself, what would the version of me who follows through do here with this choice in this situation? You don't need to feel inspired 100% of the time. You just need to feel committed to the future version of your life that you really, really want. And I promise you this, as someone who has done this work personally, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, from every angle imaginable, there is a calmer, more connected, more expansive version of life with your dog available to you. And it's not actually necessarily because your dog will become perfect at the end of all this. Remember, they're not machines, they're not. But it's because ultimately you will become more skilled, more regulated, and more intentional with your own behavior. So if January has wobbled a bit, that's totally okay. If you have already given up on a resolution, it's cool. It really doesn't matter. You're not behind. It's no biggie. You're exactly where you need to be to just choose again. And if this episode has helped you reframe even one little thing or made you feel just a little bit more steady about the path you're on, then I'm really glad that you showed up here today and you listened. The universe has done its job. Right, okay. I'm sure I have waffled on for long enough now, so I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your dog walk in peace. Maybe use this time to ponder what your 2026 goal could be. If you want to go one step further and let me know what your goal is going to be for ultimate accountability, you can come and find me on Instagram. I'm at Listen Dog Training. Send me a sneaky little DM as a little commitment to your goal. It's a powerful move for the subconscious, that is, actually getting an intention out of your mind and into the world. You can send it a DM, you can write it down, you can put it on a sticky note. Yeah, it's a really good move. Anyway, I'm waffling now. That's enough for me. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will see you same time next week for another episode of The Walk and Talk.